I wish that I could fly into the sky so very high, just like a dragonfly. I fly above the trees, over the seas, in all degrees, to anywhere I please.
Good evening, everybody, and we're going to try this again. And when I say that, because I say that every week, but this subject, which we were going to cover last week, but just due to last-minute problems, we had to substitute Matt for Marcus. Hey, they both start with M, so we were kind of in the ballpark, and but fortunately, tonight we have Matt is going to join us. And we're going to discuss some items that were brought up in the group a little while ago. A lot of that I could probably answer, but I just as soon have a subject matter expert. And I can't think of too many people that I would rather have than do it than Mr. Mathews. Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Not too bad.
That's good.
How's the weather up there?
You know, I was looking at the forecast here, and I've actually been really excited about Thursday because Thursday is one of the warmest days here that we've had in quite a long time. So we're sitting at probably about 25, 26 degrees. I enjoyed my supper out on the back deck there, and I'll probably have a nice fire this evening and relax and take advantage of the warm weather. So it's been good.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, we're nice and warm today, and supposed to be borderline hot tomorrow. So
perfect. Great segue to the weekend. Let's hope it continues.
Yeah, I'd like to do some flying this weekend, but so far the weather's looking. We'll see. So, and you, Lonnie, how is Mr. Brown?
Mr. Brown is doing very well. Very well.
Who's that? That ain't me.
No, it ain't. No, we're doing well. As you know, we were out camping there for a week and a bit, flying a bunch of drones. Nice to see you out there joining us.
Yeah.
Take a few flights as well. It was good.
Yep, we had a little bit of fun out there, and it was someplace I hadn't been before, so that was kind of nice. I always love to fly new places. If you fly the same place every time, it gets kind of boring, you know.
Yep.
And I see Marcus has joined us again. Thanks for popping in there, Marcus, and you're always welcome. A lot of this stuff may not make sense because some of this is Canadian law that we're talking about tonight, but we're going to pepper in a few extra little things here that might keep your interest. I do have kind of a little bit of a surprise announcement I'm going to make that's going to be not so much interesting for the people in this group, but for some of the other shows I'm on that might be of interest. So we'll get to that later. Let's get down to the main topic. The reason we brought in our subject matter expert, we had a couple of questions in there in the group, and part of it was what really defines a advertised event, and what is the good and legal requirements for flying at or around those. And Matt, I'm going to let you cover that as our subject matter expert. So
perfect. Well, I appreciate that. So this is just going to be more or less a discussion versus me bringing up a bunch of schematics and whatnot, because I'm getting asked the same question as well. And probably one of the most common questions that I get asked is, hey, Matt, I want to film at a wedding. Am I allowed to film at that wedding? And is that a public event? Do I have to get a special flight operation certificate? What's the process associated with that? So, I've had an opportunity to talk with Transport Canada associated with this very topic. And, in the past, there was a lot of restrictions that were placed around whether or not we could incorporate the use of a drone at a wedding event. And one of the biggest restrictions is we weren't allowed to fly over or near people or anything for that matter. So, with that said, a drone operator that, I should say, RPAS operator that carried a special flight operation certificate could fly around the wedding, but they had a restriction of roughly around 150 feet horizontally and at any altitude. I know a lot of people didn't really follow that, but at the end of the day, that's the way the rules were written. So if we wanted to use a drone, that was the only the way that it could be done. Now, obviously, we fast forward, into the new legislation, which came into effect last June, and one of those subjects pertained to flying over publicly advertised events, and what were the rules associated with that. So first and foremost, there's a couple of things that you have to have in order to even be considered for that before we even talk about flying at a publicly advertised event. At the bare minimum, you do need to carry your small advanced operator certificate. This is something that you would not be able to do if you're carrying a small basic. You would need to have the small advanced, especially if you were actually looking at flying a drone or an RPAS over individuals. The next one, of course, comes into play is the type of drone that you've got. And if we look at the drone, the Transport Canada drone website, where it says choosing the right drone, there are not a lot of drones that are specifically listed that would allow a drone operator to be able to fly over a crowd of people. One of those ones, especially if it's a publicly advertised event versus a private, I'll talk about the difference between the two. If it's a publicly advertised event, I'm just going to pull one drone out, would be the Mavic 2 group of drones with either the Para-Zero or the Indemnis parachute recovery system. Both of those are found on the Transport Canada website as approved for use operating a drone over people. Now, also keep in mind, there's a couple of disclaimers and some caveats that are in place that as a drone operator utilizing that, you would have certain altitude restrictions in terms of how close you'd be able to get to that individual. And basically, those are designed in such a way to allow the parachute to effectively deploy and slow the rate of fall down. A lot of people just think, I can strap on a parachute and I can be, ripping over top of the crowds at a really low altitude. And that, in fact, is something that you can't do. The manufacturer's recommendations do have certain altitude restrictions in order to do that. So, got to be an advanced pilot. Got to utilize a drone that is found on the Transport Canada website that is approved for drone flights over people. And only then would you be in a position to apply for a special flight operation certificate that would allow you to fly in a publicly advertised event. Now, again, there's a lot of legwork that's going to be involved with that. Just simply sending that application in and getting an approval. Transport Canada will normally request that you submit that within 30 days of the event. Thank you very much for bringing that up. But within, with COVID and everything else that's going on, talking to some of the inspectors, they're requesting that you give them at least 60 days notice. So this is here, Lawrence brought up the Transport Canada website. Thank you for doing that. And as you can see here, there's 286 drones that are listed on this website that are approved for various advanced operations. Not all of them are approved for controlled airspace near people and over people as a bundle. As an example, the Inspire 1, that one is only rated for controlled airspace. So that would be an example of a drone that you would not be allowed to use if you're planning on operating, at a publicly advertised event where you're, intending on being over people.
Just to interrupt you for a second, Matt. Yeah, I did a sort on this here so that it, right now I'm just currently bringing up all the drones that are certified for flight over people.
Yep.
So
you're the fastest way that I've done is I've always just gone up into the search box, which is at the top there. And of course you've got Para-Zero. So, I've always told individuals just to jump into that one. And in the case of the Mavic 2, which we've got right here, If you see, where's the Mavic 2 Professional? So there we go. So right at the very top, Mavic 2, DJI Mavic 2 Pro with the Safe Air Mavic and ASTM system. That's approved for flights over, that's the M200 there. So all the way up at the top. So that would be an example of one that you would be able to utilize in your application. Now, more often than not, if you are planning on flying at some sort of publicly advertised event, in order to, not necessarily to expedite the approval process, one of the things that you want to make sure is you've done your homework. And in that sense, essentially, if you're just planning on flying over an event for the simple sake that you want to do that for yourself and capture, great pictures and footage, it might be a lot tougher versus trying to coordinate that with the actual event planners. Obviously either the event planner has reached out to you, or you're going to reach out to them and say, here is what I can offer you as an advanced operator. So my recommendation is if you're planning on doing that, let's hope that the request came from the event organizer. And if that's the case, then, to arm yourself with, more information, I would definitely look at getting some sort of a document that would be, submitted on behalf of the event organization to say that we are, looking to have, in my case, Blackhawk Aeronautical Solutions, performing flights at this particular publicly advertised event. With that said, another very important part of the whole application process would be your procedures. That's one of the things, it's one of the minimum requirements that Transport Canada has, that as a commercial operator, you should have operational procedures in place, emergency procedures in place, maintenance procedures in place. And of course, if the drone that you're utilizing includes any of those, you want to make sure that those are written into your manual. Highly recommended as part of the submission, because I can guarantee you Transport Canada is going to come back and start asking questions. They're going to say, hey, all right, before we approve you to do this, you need to demonstrate your due diligence. What have you done to ensure a safe operation for this particular flight? What are your emergency procedures in place? List off the equipment that you've got. What do you have for ground support and ground security? Are you roping off an area? So basically, it's almost like you're creating a safe work plan or a flight plan, for lack of a better term, that you want to submit. The more information that you're able to submit as part of your request on the SFOC application, the better off that you'll be in the end in getting the approval to do that. But like I said, you certainly want to give yourself at least 30 to 60 days notice. Anything short of that, then Transport Canada is going to be hard pressed to offer that approval. And then, of course, you're going to have to come back to your client and say that that's something you can't do. So that's kind of the nutshell, the Coles notes associated with that. Now, as for what you need to include as part of the submission, it's really going to be based on a case-by-case basis. It's going to be, what is the activity? What are the number of people? Where are you planning on flying? Are you in controlled airspace? Are you near airports and heliports? And if so, what are some of the mitigations that that you've done in order to reduce the amount of risk associated with the flight? Now, let's be honest. The equipment that we have, I swear by the DJI equipment. I've never had any serious failures of my equipment, but that's also because I've taken the time to ensure that my equipment is properly maintained. Batteries, propellers, inspection, software updates, you name it. But also at the same token, I am prepared to abort at any point in time if something just doesn't feel right as part of that. So what you want to do is, again, equip yourself with as much information and planning ahead of time so that when you actually do go to submit your special flight operation certificate, you're going to reduce the back and forth between you and the inspector. Obviously you want to try to answer as many questions as you possibly can in your initial submission so that when they do come back to you, they've got less questions that they're asking, and you're more apt to get the approval to fly, in that particular situation.
Cool.
And breathe.
And breathe. Yeah. Exhale.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah, no, go ahead.
did I miss it on what actually constitutes a public event?
That is a great question, and it's very clear. If it is an event that has been publicly advertised through radio, through social media, through television, and the public has been made aware of it and they can attend it, then that is what constitutes a publicly advertised event. If it is an event that is, privately advertised through social media, that's a different story. And SFOC is, and that's where like the wedding comes into place. You would not need to get a special flight operation certificate. You would not need to be an advanced operator, but you better definitely make sure that you've got your ducks in a row in the event that something happens. At the end of the day, again, you're still responsible. You are the pilot in command. So you're responsible for all actions associated with, the use of your RPAS in that event. And so, making sure that you've got procedures in place, almost everything that you would need to do, with regards to getting an SFOC, you better have all of that in place as well. And again, that's just all about protecting you, protecting the public, making sure that your equipment stays in tip-top shape.
Yeah. Yeah, I see, like one of the things that call it a little loophole that I like to use is like if I'm out with a group of friends and stuff and we're flying around, I say, you guys all have to acknowledge that you're my spotters, because technically they become ground crew then.
Yeah, and then as soon as they do that, then the ability to operate your drone over top of those people, it becomes a non-issue because they're part of your crew.
Yeah, exactly.
And the regulations, they're very specific around that, saying unless they're part of the crew, you have your certain setback distances based on the drone that you're flying. Yeah. But if it is part of the crew, if it is part of the shoot, and you've done your homework, you've had your pre-flight meeting with everybody. Everybody knows what you're doing, where you're going, how you're flying, what equipment you're using, how it operates. That's a discussion that you would have ahead of time. And then with that'll open up the ability for you to operate in that area and be over top of, those people, AKA your ground crew.
Yeah. Or use a Mavic Mini.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or just without that. Yeah. I got a pile of drones at my disposal right now here. So I've got, here we go. Even got my racing drone here as well. So I've got that one as well. So.
Oh, cool. So, anyway, I didn't see anybody answering any questions or asking any questions. You're answering them, Matt, but I didn't see anybody.
No, thank you very much. I live and breathe this. I get asked this on a regular basis, and part of the ground school class that I offer, I actually take the time to go through the Canadian aviation regulations verbatim. So we review them together, and I provide a detailed explanation. So I better know it.
Just as a side note, before we move on, since you're teaching that, are you coming up with a recency program or not?
Absolutely. Yeah, you bet. I have been working on a modified version of my 20-hour ground school class. Yeah. I've had an opportunity to share that with a couple of the inspectors here locally, just to get their input. I was very fortunate to actually have one of the inspectors, Mr. Mike Tom, attend my ground school class here just recently. And again, same thing, I looked for feedback, which he thought was good. So that's great. But yes, I'm just waiting for the feedback when he's got the time to let me know. But then I will be offering a reduced, time class that will cover some of the key basics and essentially meet that requirements for the recency.
Perfect. Cool.
Thanks.
And you're probably going to be offering that online still until things change, but
yeah, right now, I think I've managed to master how I deliver my material online. I am currently using a corporate account for Zoom that I purchased, and it's worked out extremely well. I know there was a couple of hiccups here and there when it comes to sharing documents, and even more so sharing a lot of the videos that I utilize in my class. What I originally found was when I was sharing the videos off of my desktop and trying to stream them to everybody, it was just extremely glitchy, and they just weren't getting, obviously the important details of the video. So I've managed to, I actually created a private library on YouTube of all of my videos. And when I'm ready to kind of bring that video up, I actually just share that through the chat window on a link. I'll tell them how long the video is, and then basically we all regroup after 3, 4, 8, 22 minutes kind of thing, and go from there. But it's been really good. So I don't really have plans just yet to start offering in-person class training. I have done a couple of private classes, but most of my public classes right now have all been online, and it's worked really, really well.
Cool.
That's good.
So let's move on to our next question. And well, actually, it wasn't a question. That was just something that you and I were discussing about using things like AirMap or Kitty Hawk or whatever, any of the commercially available apps for checking out your airspace.
Absolutely.
And actually, Matt and I talked about discussing this, but I think I know where he's going to go on this, and tell me if I'm wrong, but there is only one official source.
One official free source.
Free source, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Probably the next closest would be ForeFlight, right?
Absolutely. And in fact, both of those are two of the both web and handheld applications that I absolutely use on a regular basis. What I love about ForeFlight is, notwithstanding the cost, let's just very quickly talk about that, because I know a lot of people go, holy crap, that's $140 subscription a year. To a lot of people, before you actually peel back the layers, to them it's expensive. But then, when I turn around and say, all right, not a problem. That is expensive, I agree. But the ForeFlight application gives you 2 licenses. So I've got one, and I've got another associate that uses the other license. So now that splits the cost into $70. And then you look at what actually ForeFlight does offer. And I'll just spout out 3 of them that's there. The first and foremost is you're getting all of your weather updates every 30 minutes from the local radars. So I can tap into those, which are a lot more timely than some of the other weather apps that are out there that are typically offering hourly forecasts. And so that's one part. But the other 2 that really set it apart is if you want to have an updated copy of the Canadian Flight Supplement, which, as you can see, the thing is absolutely massive. The Canadian Flight Supplement is only valid for 56 days. And if you get a subscription to it, it's $30 per subscription. So right out of the gates, that's $180 just to have an updated copy of the Canadian Flight Supplement.
That looks like a nice pocket novel.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you betcha. It's nasty. Now, you can get a digital subscription, which obviously, if one wants to do that, I would recommend digital for this, because this is just killing way too many trees. But, at $30 times 6 subscriptions a year, that's $180. It's already past the cost of ForeFlight, especially if you're looking at sharing it. You're paying $70 versus $180 for the Flight Supplement. And all of that information is found in ForeFlight. Okay. The second tool, which I think is awesome, is the fact that ForeFlight offers updated VFR navigation charts, also known as sectional charts, also known as VNCs. And one of the things that we talk about as part of our pre-flight planning is referencing airspace, referencing air navigation routes that are used by VFR pilots, understanding where all of the aerodromes are and everything else. And ForeFlight includes those in its app as well. If I was to turn around and buy printed sectional charts, they last 30 days. They're $16 a chart. So that's already well over $140, $150 for charts. But that's just one of 52 charts that are all across Canada. And ForeFlight offers everything there. So, you add that up, you're already over $300 in sectional charts and the flight supplement, whereas ForeFlight for 2 licenses, you're paying $70 a license. So it's a no-brainer, and obviously it's also one that's recognized by NAV Canada. So you are going to get the most up-to-date information, both in a web version as well as available right on your phone. So a great reference tool for those that are serious about commercial drone activities, like myself. I've had a subscription to ForeFlight now for probably 5 years. Yes, it is an app for folks that are flying manned aircraft, but it's also a wonderful app for individuals that are looking to operate a drone commercially and give you all that information that you're looking for right at your fingertips.
Cool.
If you don't want to spend that much money and you're looking for a free app because you're a weekend warrior type drone operator, then of course you've got the NRC drone site selection tool. Now, of course, the site selection tool, it is the only officially recognized program by Transport Canada that we can use as a drone or as an RPAS operator that's free. Now, don't get me wrong, there's lots of other ones that are out there, and I have no doubts that in a short period of time, there's going to be quite a few additional programs that will be made available. And, somebody might jump on here and say, Matt, I know another app. That's great. And if you do, please share that with us, because that it's just going to only make things, better for all of us as a group. But what I do like about the site selection tool, let me begin by saying that this website has been around for a couple of years, and it's seen some massive improvements here since the new legislation has come out. But they've taken it all and they've made it very, very simple. So I'm just going to turn around and see if I can expand my window here to make it a little bit bigger. And before we kind of jump into this, I'm in the Edmonton area. I want to turn around and I just want to bring you just a quick overview of some of these icons that kind of slide out and slide in based on what you've got here. Again, I think that's still a little bit of a work in progress, but all in all, I've been pretty happy with the layouts that are here. So right away, I'm just going to show you this remote up at the top. By clicking on the remote, you've got the option of looking at everything from the perspective of a small basic operator or a small advanced operator. So before I actually click on the link, we're just going to leave it here, and then we'll jump over into the advanced side of things, and I'll show you how things change. The next one, of course, is we've got the ability to do a search, whether it be a town or a geolocation or a Latin long, you've got that. And then you have the ability to basically change the different layers, right? So if I wanted to go to Street View, change the icons that are here, all of that will show up on the left-hand side. I've got just a simple help, so simple questions and a little help section that'll help the individual, navigate through it. And then I've got the ability to turn around and actually save these settings as a default. So if I didn't want to look at this as a basic operator, I just want to look at everything as an advanced all the time, I can turn around and make my changes, and then I can save that. Sorry, this was the layers here that I wanted to talk about. So this has the ability to, toggle on and off all of the different layers, which in this case, there's only 3. So with that, let's just kind of zoom out of this here, and let's talk about the site selection tool, and more so around a lot of discussions that I see in various forums that basically just say you're not allowed to fly near a heliport and you're not allowed to fly near an airplane. And in fact, that statement is false, because as a basic operator, in looking at just the Edmonton area right now, notwithstanding the orange and the red areas, I have the ability to operate my drone in almost all of these areas, with the exception of some areas do require a permit for takeoff and landing, such as at the city of Edmonton. If you're taking off from any city-owned property, you do require to get a permit. Calgary holds the same, the same type of permit system. And so in this case, interestingly enough, St. Albert. I know there's probably more that will eventually come online, but basically what this means is if I'm holding my small basic operator certificate, you're going to see a lot of all of these little airports and heliports and stuff that are listed here that are found in yellow. If they are yellow, as a small basic operator, I am allowed to operate my drone in that area. I don't have to coordinate, although it's probably nice to reach out to that aerodrome, introduce yourself, let them know, just so that they're aware. But as it stands, the only rule that applies is because these aerodromes are registered aerodromes, not certified. The certified ones are the ones that are found red. But the registered aerodromes allow me to operate my drone in that area so long as I give way to all aircraft that enters in that area for the purposes of conducting a circuit or taking off or landing or whatever the case may be.
Matt,
yep.
click on one of those areas. Okay.
Yeah, you bet. Let's turn around and we'll click on, we're going to bring up the Parkland Aerodrome here. And there's a reason why I'm bringing that one up. But each one of those, and great, thanks for bringing that up, Lauren, here. Each one of them allows you to click on it. And you can see here right away, drone operations are permitted within the zone indicated by the yellow filled shape. Caution is advised, however, due to potential air traffic. Operations when other air traffic or aircraft are present is strongly discouraged. So obviously, what this is saying is you're permitted to fly, but it is obviously recommended that if you see any aircraft in the area, get your drone as close to the ground. If not, land your drone. Okay. Then you've got another little piece here is what does this mean? And it goes right into 901.47.1 of the Canadian Aviation Regulations. No pilot shall operate an RPAS at or near an aerodrome that's listed in the Canadian Flight Supplement or the Water Aerodrome Supplement in a manner that interferes with an aircraft operating in the established traffic pattern. So it's not saying you can't fly. It's just basically saying that you're at the bottom of the totem pole. If another aircraft comes in, you've got to give way, which includes, reducing your altitude and or landing. Now, one more thing here is under the details, you can see that it gives you the airport code. It tells you who the operator is, and obviously, operator details found within the Canadian Flight Supplement. Some of these I found when you click on them will actually give you phone numbers and links to a couple of other websites that will actually give you that information. That's where ForeFlight, steps up and above. This is the flight supplement. It's found in ForeFlight, gives you the ability to go in, find out who the operator is, find out what the airplane or the airport frequency is if I'm going to be using an air radio. Lets me know whether it's registered or certified, gives me the phone number of that operator so I can reach out to them. And in this particular case, it would just be a friendly, hi, this is me. I'm going to be flying my drone out and, near the airport. I'll keep an eye out for any air traffic. And even if you want, I'll turn on my air radio, and the operator's going to say, okay, thank you very much. They can't say no, because like I said, you are legally allowed to do it, but you do have to give way to any air traffic that's in the area.
Yep. Cool.
All right. Let's turn around and just as a basic operator, let's go to the, let's just go to St. Albert Sturgeon Community Hospital. So I want to click on that, and right out of the gates, basic drone operations are not permitted within the 1 nautical mile zone as indicated by the red filled circle. So if I wanted to see exactly where that circle is, naturally I can zoom in. And I can even turn around and change this from a map view to a satellite view. And what you're going to end up getting is a hard line around that heliport that outlines, where you're not permitted to fly as a basic operator. All right. So if you're doing your homework and a little bit of research, and you've been asked to fly in this particular area, obviously, anything in the red circle, you need to be an advanced operator, and you would need to coordinate with the Sturgeon County Hospital in order to fly in that area.
Matt, for a second there, can you click over to advanced operation and show them how the colors change?
Yes, sir. And that's where I was just going to do. So as the advanced operator, click on it, and you'll note that all of the colors change, and all of them that are red will change to an orange. Now, if I turn around and I click this with the base or the advanced operator listed, you can see it says advanced drone operations require permission from the heliport operator to fly within 1 nautical mile, as indicated by the orange filled circle. All right. So this is a heliport. It is a certified heliport. As such, I need to carry my advanced operator certificate. I would need to coordinate with this heliport directly to be able to fly my drone in this area. All right. Now I am going to zoom out a little bit, and I want to just pull up. We're going to save this one here for a little bit, but I want to go back to the Edmonton International Airport, and I want to just show you this. This is also orange now that I've switched myself over as an advanced operator. But unlike the heliport there, the last one that we visited that talked about coordinating with the heliport directly, this here is a little bit different because this is Class Charlie airspace. And as an advanced or as a basic operator, you will not be permitted to operate your drone in any controlled airspace, which includes Class Charlie, Class Delta, Class Echo, and Class Foxtrot airspace. There's additional airspace coordination that's needed to be able to fly in this area. So in this particular case here, around the Edmonton International Airport, if I click on it, it's basically saying advanced operations are only permitted within the zone as indicated by the orange fill circle with permission from the Airspace Operating Authority. Well, who is the operating authority for all of the controlled airspace in Alberta? In this particular case, it's NAV Canada. So in order for me to fly, I don't seek permission from the Edmonton International Airport, especially if I'm out in this area. They will eventually be brought into the process to approve, but the initial request will go through the NAV Canada website, which is basically you will submit an RPAS flight authorization request for any of the controlled airspace found within Alberta. And the reason why I say Alberta is Alberta falls within what we call the Edmonton Flight Information Region, or the Edmonton FIR. So I'm going to just zoom out here. I don't know if anybody's ever gone to that yet. Well, I'm sure lots of people have, but we're going to go to the NAV Canada website. I'm going to click on English, and right under flight planning, you'll see the drop-down box, and the very bottom there says RPAS. So if I want to fly in controlled airspace, and I found that through the drone site selection tool, I'm going to scroll down a little bit here, and under bullet number 2, it's going to talk about your flight authorization request. Now, before I do that, I'm going to click on 1 because the first step is to determine the flight authorization region, or sorry, the flight information region that I want to submit my request on. So as you can see, with the exception of green here, almost all of Alberta falls within the Edmonton FIR. So in going back to my NAV Canada webpage here, I'm going to click on the flight authorization request, and you can see where it says region right away. I'm selecting Edmonton FIR. So now with that, you're going to fill this out, submit that, and then begin, your back and forth with NAV Canada to be able to operate your drone, within this controlled airspace here out in Edmonton. A lot of people like to fly at Castro Raceway. Because there's lots of cars and stuff going back and forth. All of that obviously requires approval through NAV Canada, but also some, direct coordination with the Edmonton International Airport.
Cool. Everybody learn something? Put your hand up.
Yeah. 2.
Then I'm doing my job. That's good.
Yeah.
Now, I guess the last thing that I want to talk about the drone site selection tool is this is based on drones that are currently operated that fall within the weight category of 250 grams up to 25 kilograms and or 55 pounds. With that said, you do not have to submit a flight authorization request to operate within controlled airspace. However, I do want to be very, very cautious and let you guys know that there is one particular piece of the Canadian Aviation Regulations 900.06 basically says do not operate your drone in a reckless manner to the point where you are going to cause harm to nearby aircraft and or individuals that are that are nearby. So Mavic Mini, you would not have to go through this process, but obviously the expectation is if you're planning on flying a Mavic Mini in these areas, do be respectable with your flights, and then also take into consideration that there are some cities, Edmonton, Calgary, St. Albert, that do have additional laws that don't have a weight class. And therefore, you want to make sure that, if you're planning on flying your Mavic Mini in that area, you want to turn around and approve, get appropriate approvals by means of a permit to be able to fly your drone.
Right.
The last one I want to talk about here, which falls under the drone site selection tool, I'm just going to zoom up here. And you'll see we've got the Elk Island National Park is orange. We also, if we continue here west, you can see the Jasper, Banff, all of those national parks. Again, they don't have a weight class. They do have a requirement for you to submit a permit request, again, to fly your drone. Doesn't matter whether it's a Mavic Mini or not. You'd have to get a permit to be able to operate in the national parks.
Or provincial park.
Or provincial, that's right. Yep. It's funny. I'm just training them right now as we speak. But there is a bylaw in place for use of provincial parks. And there's actually also, I just received it today. In fact, I'll probably end up sharing it amongst a couple of our Alberta drone groups, is they have recently made amendments to the use of drones for hunting in Alberta. And so
Really?
I do have a copy of the legislation. The long and short of it is you can't. You cannot. You can't wait. You can't do it. You can't even share information to a hunter about an animal that you've seen. Our hunter can't obtain that from a drone operator. So I actually do have the regulations. I will make sure that I provide that to our groups for those that
I've always thought it was illegal. I didn't realize that it wasn't.
Here's what it was, and I had an opportunity to have a discussion with a few of the officers there, and what they ended up doing with drones is they just categorized them like aircraft, and so they had a time restriction that was there, where if you're out looking for wildlife with an aircraft, you had a certain amount of time before you could go hunting in that same area. The same thing applied with the drone. So they just kind of grouped drones in that same category that's there. But now they've actually made amendments to the legislation that specifically addresses the use of drones and the sharing of information associated with wildlife to hunters, that are in that same area.
Cool.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Is that, you got it covered now?
I think so. I think we've covered most of it. I guess I just want to briefly touch base on the AirMap tool because we get a lot of people that talk about using AirMaps. And I'm just going to jump into, I want to actually just show you a comparison. So this is the NRC site selection tool. And you can see I've got the Parkland Aerodrome selected here. All right. Now, anybody that's taken any ground school class, sorry, my screen just kind of jumped up there. Anybody that's taken any sort of ground school training, whether it be small or advanced, or the Curian Advanced Certificate, Just by looking at this map, which is a Transport Canada approved tool, I'm wondering, can you tell me whether or not this particular aerodrome is in controlled airspace? What do you think? It's not.
From that, it doesn't appear to be, no.
It is not in controlled airspace. Parkland Airport is in Class Golf airspace. It is, at the current time, a registered aerodrome, which basically means as a small basic or a small advanced, I don't have to obtain coordination or permission to fly in there. Obviously I just need to give way. So now what I want to do is give me a little bit of time here. I'm going to jump in and I'm going to pull up the Parkland Airport on AirMaps. So let me just zoom out a little bit here. Take a look at the Parkland Airport on AirMaps. It identifies Parkland Airport on AirMap as being in controlled airspace. Yeah. And just to prove it, here you go. I've just clicked on the link here and it says controlled airspace. It's not controlled airspace. So, when people tell other individuals to use AirMap, there are discrepancies that are found here that, somebody's gonna look at that and say, oh, you're not allowed to fly in that area. It's controlled airspace. It's not controlled airspace. I can prove that by pulling up a VNC chart. I can pull up the drone site selection tool. I can pull up ForeFlight, and I can show you that, this in fact is not controlled airspace. So if an individual wants to use AirMap, again, I'm just going to throw caution to the wind here. Not saying that the drone site selection tool is perfect, because it's not. But I have, right away I found a discrepancy just outlining Parkland Airport as having controlled airspace, and it's not.
Yeah, because like a lot of that, they don't take into account, the tiered shape of the aerodrome, right? Yeah. They look at the biggest, most broadest section and classify the whole thing from maximum altitude to surface. Yeah, absolutely. And realistic, like let's be honest here. All of Calgary and all of Edmonton is under controlled airspace. As Lauren has mentioned, if you ever look at the way airspace is structured, you're going to have your airspace from ground that will go up to a certain altitude, depending on whether it's Charlie or Delta. But as soon as you get up to that certain area, then the airspace expands up and out. It looks like an upside down wedding cake. So if you turn around and look at any of the VNC charts that are out there, you will see that all of Edmonton and Calgary fall underneath. Now, the key difference is, that's where that wedding cake comes into place. Parkland, although above Parkland Airport, you will find Class Charlie and Class Bravo controlled airspace. Parkland Airport as a whole, as itself, that is Class G airspace. It's uncontrolled. Yeah, because it's underneath the controlled airspace.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's the same as like when I fly around South Calgary here. It's controlled airspace, but I'm flying under the controlled.
Yeah, and the only reason why I bring that up is anybody that is operating a drone should be aware that if I had, in the unlikely event, but if I did have a vertical flyaway, there is a potential chance that drone will enter controlled airspace. So as part of your pre-flight planning, I always recommend to, have the phone number for the Edmonton and the Calgary Tower, or for whatever aerodrome that's nearby, large aerodrome. In the event that you've got a vertical flyaway, you can reach out to them and let them know.
Yeah. Cool. I think we've got to cover any last things on that?
No,
we're kind of blowing the hell out of our half-hour show.
oh, is it only half hour? I thought it was an hour. So all right,
no,
we're hitting it out of the park, I guess. So that's
it is what it is.
Yeah. All right, I'll tell you what. I'm done. I really appreciate the opportunity. I hope I've added some clarity to this. Like I said, I do offer drone ground school classes where we go into this in detail. So if anybody has any questions, reach out to me and I will gladly help you. But of course, if you're looking for more, then let me know and I can let you guys know when we have upcoming classes. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to Lauren and Lonnie and let you guys do the talking, and I'm going to sit back and observe.
Actually,
It's awesome.
Thanks.
it was kind of funny. I got two final things I want to just kind of discuss. Today went absolutely crazy. I got sent 6 different pictures of the new Mavic 3, right? And only 2 of them even qualified close enough to be even considered. So I posted those 2 in the group, right? And if you can see, they're clearly not Mavic 3s, but I thought I'd post them just for conversation, And that's why I said on the first one, I said, what do you think?
Yeah.
But not even close from the information I've got from my sources. That there was some validity in some of that, but it's not even close. So, and one final thing, lots of going on at DJI at the moment. Anybody that's been keeping up with the news on them, you'll notice that they delayed their release of the Ronin RS2. There's a little bit of an issue there. They're quickly scrambling on some firmware on that, which kind of caused a waterfall effect on other items. Oh, frick, go away! All of a sudden, my virus scanner wants to tell me that everything's okay. Well, that's good, but anyways, yeah. So would you bugger off? So anyways, that, and they were busy pushing forward on the new privacy that they're coming out with. So unfortunately, a lot of their coders got busy on those 2 projects. So one that a lot of people are waiting for is going to be delayed. And that one is for the smart controller compatibility for the Air 2. It was scheduled to come out next week. Now it's going to be possibly the end of the month. Possibly. If they get caught up, we could see it at the end of the month. If not, it's now looks like it's going to be delayed till next month. So, barring any forest fires. But I know some people were waiting for it. I wanted to have that on mine. So, but
you got yours yet?
What's that?
You got your controller yet?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, you got it? Good.
Yeah. Because like I say, there's a lot of people waiting for that, and it will be coming, but unfortunately now it's been delayed again. Like, this is actually the 3rd delay on that, but oh well. It'll be here when it gets here. That's all I gotta say. So
that's a good guess.
Yeah. And that's about it for me. And what about you, Mr. Brown?
You got an exciting announcement, didn't you say? Or
oh, besides, I'm getting out of I'm quitting drones. Yeah, I'm getting out of drones. Did I forget to mention that? Yeah, yeah. That's taking up too much drinking time. So you gotta get your priorities straight.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh dear. No, actually, the announcement, because I know there's a few people that are tuned in from out of town from other shows that I deal with, but they were waiting for the big announcement on the smart controller, and no, unfortunately, the wait continues, and now you know why. So,
no problem.
Yep. Like you said, it'll be here when it gets here.
Yeah. So, any closing thoughts, gentlemen?
Yeah, well, like I said, I appreciate the opportunity to come here and talk. I've had the pleasure of being on the show once before, and I know Lauren and I have talked about it before. If there's any topics, actually, let me. I guess I'll close out with this: is if there's any other topics that the listeners and the viewers want to know, from the legislation or just anything pertaining to operating drones here in Canada, bring it up. I Lauren threw these ones at me and asked me my thoughts, and I gladly obliged by coming on here. I don't have a problem doing it again. So if there's something else that we want to talk about, let Lauren know, let me know, and I'll definitely do a little bit of homework and be happy to come back to the show and talk again to you guys.
Yeah, Matt's in the group in case anybody didn't know, but yeah, he's in the group and active member. But and we also occasionally we fall back on Caitlin, as you probably know, Matt.
Yep.
So and she's a good source as well. But
awesome person, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yep. So, Lonnie, closing thoughts?
Great show, Matt. Learned a lot tonight. Thank you very much for all your input.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
Yeah. We always learn a lot from Matt. So,
yeah, it's good.
But anyway, in the meantime and in between time, that's another edition of our show. We'll see you next week.
That's all, folks.